This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very start of your live safari. We are just admiring a herd of impala. I wonder if it's the same ones from last night with Miss Kalamba. So I'm going to bumble this morning, see if I can pick up signs of anything, as the weather is still not great. But it's that time of day, everyone, for your live safari through the African bush.
This program features live coverage.
Such a pleasure to have you all here with us on board. It's a very grey day, overcast. We got 60 mils of rain since yesterday, which is actually quite a lot, considering it was a short bout of rain, so it must have came down quite hard. My name is Lauren. I do have Davy on camera. And Davy, look what I've just found. A pom-pom moth, I think, on my jacket. There you go. One of the most beautiful moths we get around here, and it's obviously taking up residence on my jacket. Now, it's not chilly, although I have got a fleece on, of course. It's 21 degrees Celsius and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And you must talk to us. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to tell you. Hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on the YouTube chat, or you can head over to the WildEarth website. Go to the live safari page and submit your questions there. But kids, if you're under 18, we want to hear from you. So you send us an email containing your details and your question. And the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, I can't see my monitor now. Bear with me, Davy. I'm so sorry. That was my fault. There we go. So it's called the pom-pom moth because, well, it has a pom-pom looking head. Now, it's just very, very fine hairs. And this particular species is nocturnal. And therefore, during the day, just like now, it will be resting. Why it's on my jacket, I do not know. But I will make sure I look after it. It's a very, very small little species. You can see this is my finger next to it. It's really not a big one. And when it comes to moths, they have much thicker scales than butterflies. And they have a lot more of them. So that's why it looks almost iridescent on the wings. It looks shiny and powdery. And it's just scales that they end up shedding. Isn't this just the cutest moth ever? The antenna will be tucked under, as with the eyes. This is very much in resting position. I'm just going to turn it round, Davy, if that's okay. You will see this side. The last set of legs. All the legs are attached to the same part of the body that sort of middle segment, the thorax. But he's got them all splayed out so that he can cling onto, well, my jacket. Looks like a little snowflake, like he belongs in a snow country. But not all moths are nocturnal. It's a bit, generally speaking they are, but not all of them. And the order Lepidoptera, which is where you get butterflies and moths, gets a little bit confusing at times because they don't all stick to the general rule of thumb. Now we're going to bumble to the hyena den, but I do just want to put my little friend here back to safety. You stay safe, little guy. We're going to take you on a live safari. He said he can't wait. Very exciting. So Tlalamba was here last night, as many of you know. So we may as well continue to scratch around the area for her as well. Because of the rain, what happens is it makes the ground very, very wet. And unless you're quite a hard walker, like an impala, it's almost impossible to see the tracks. And leopards, as you know, are not hard walkers. They're specialised for being stealthy and quiet. And they've got that digitate sort of foot structure, which means they walk very, very lightly so that the prey can't hear them coming. But what that also means is it will not leave tracks on the ground as it's wet like this at the moment. So I'm not going to spend too much time looking for tracks. You will see hyena tracks. They've got a really heavy walk and they've also got the claws. But leopards, not so much. Okay, so off to the hyena den I go, and we're now going to send you across to Phinda to say good morning.
Good morning and a very fresh and nippy welcome to andBeyond Phinda. We have come looking for lions this morning and found this beautiful white-backed vulture up in the tree, just sitting there really beautifully in the morning light. So we thought we'd come to you with that first thing this morning. Welcome, my name's Devon. Behind the camera we've got Odie. And like I said, we're going to be looking for some lions this morning. So these vultures, when it gets a little bit warmer, will be able to help us potentially find lions. If any animal makes a kill, we often see vultures coming down onto the ground at quite a speed, almost dropping out of the sky. So hopefully a little bit later, either this will help us find some predators, but for now just a really, really beautiful sight of this white-backed vulture. You can see the heads hanging quite low in relation to the back of the neck and the wings, and vultures have got the characteristic really long neck which helps them get right into carcasses when they're feeding. Vultures, of course, being quite or they're scavengers, so relying heavily on carcasses of their source of food. If you have a look at quite close in at the base of the neck, so he's got quite a long neck, and then at the base is what we call a crop. So all birds have got a crop where their food gets stored, and with vultures and other birds of prey, when it's full, it's quite a distinctive bulge. So with this vulture, it'll almost look like they've got a tennis ball at the base of their throat where it joins onto their body. And from what I can see on this bird is this crop is completely empty. So possibly quite hungry. They are quite large birds. When weighing a couple kilograms, it takes them quite a while it takes quite a lot of energy actually to fly, to get that big mass off the ground and up into the air. So what they'll do is he'll probably wait for the sun to rise a little bit more, heat the surface of the earth up a little bit, yeah? And when the sun starts heating the surface of the earth, it'll start creating uneven patches of heat, and the spots that get hot quicker will start rising because hot air rises, and then these vultures and other big as that happens, these vultures and other large birds of prey will use those thermals, we call them, to gain height. So you'll see them flying in circles, gaining height. And when that happens, it's just a really nifty way of them flying around without using too much energy. You'll often see when vultures are up in the sky, they flap very seldomly, using those really big wings just to glide. Diane, that's a really good question. Thank you so much for asking. So vultures, if they see a carcass, they will come down immediately towards the kill. And if there are predators around, they most likely won't land on the ground right next to the carcass. They'll come down onto a tree, and then from there they'll just sit and wait. And when the lions or whatever other predator, there we go, has made the kill moves off, then they'll come down onto the ground. Vultures have been known to sometimes even chase animals like cheetah off of carcasses. As these birds come down, other birds will see them dropping out the sky, and often within no time you can have all the way up to 50, 60 vultures all on the ground waiting for either the predator to move off, or if the predator's moved off already, straight down onto the ground and into the carcass to feed. We are going to carry on moving towards where I'm hoping to find some lions. And for now, we're going to leave this white-backed vulture up in his tree. I'm sure he's going to sit here for another while, maybe even another hour or so before it gets a little bit warmer. And we're going to send you across to Andrew.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. From Djuma Private Game Reserve this morning, where we're sitting here at Gary Dam, and it's beautiful and quiet. And looks like again our friend here, the Hippo, he returned into this very beautiful waterhole, having his own time without any disturbed. My name is Andrew. On camera this morning I have Simon. So we plan to start check around this way, and then hopefully, actually hoping to see if there is a Talamba's chance that she around, because she was not far from here on the quarantine. And busy finishing off her scrub hair last night. So, but we found out it's been actually a lot of rain over the night. He's starting to get a little bit active. So remember, we're coming to you live from this location today, where we're always happy to hear from you. If you can send us questions and comment. Simple way, you can go also register on WildEarth website, head over to the live Safari page, and you can submit your question and comment there. This is how we're going to be interacting from this woodland. And the temperature of today, 21 degrees Celsius and 70 Fahrenheit. Heavily cloudy still. We might actually have some shower later on. just looks like nobody else around here at the dam except for a bird that's circling around those blacksmith lapwings, searching on the edge of the watering hole here. Johan, so you're asking if hippo can swim. So hippo can't swim, but they can float, and every time they switch place to another, they submerge down, and then from there they do movement and they come up here on the other side. He's probably been out all night feeding the grasses, actually moisture or wet. And he didn't bring nobody else home here, where it's only himself, as usual. One day he might probably bring some girls with him. So let's hope. So I'm going to carry on searching. It's an audio line, but looks like out of reach for us. We're going to head in that area, check if there's any line close to us. In the meantime, I'm going to be sending you across to Lauren with her hyena.
Well, the hyena den is active. Not only is it active, every single hyena here is so full. I can only begin to wonder what happened last night. We've got Ribbon here with her two precious little bundles. And on the other side, we're not able to give you a view right now, we have Heart with her two precious bundles. And Sutu is also walking around. She's walked off this now, but she's here. We'll try and give you another view, but Ribbon is actually lying in a different position. I can't believe it. Ribbon likes her throne, and no, today we're not in the throne. Ribbon is lying where we normally park, so we'll have to try and move around to the other side to get you a view of Heart. But you can see that belly, it's almost triangular. You just take a look at what would be her shoulder blade, her scapula. She's definitely lost muscle. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm not saying she's not matriarch, but she's definitely lost a little bit of condition. And I'm sure Ribbon will put it back on again. But can you see that? That's sort of all the muscle in her upper arm, which is the strongest part of her, along with her neck. Definitely lost muscle. Hyenas have that really unique body shape. It's almost like a sloping gait at the back. It looks rather bizarre because all the power is in their front legs and their neck. And that's how they're able to pull carcasses, and that's what gives them the driving force behind hunting. She's definitely weak. But I mean, that belly, wow. I'm sure there's a lot of bones in there, and that will build up her calcium levels. And I'm sure with all that protein, she can start building muscle again. But all the same, it's good to see her and her hungry little munchkins. Look at that nose just popping out there. Boop. So something definitely went down last night. All of them got full bellies. Gregory, I wasn't sure whether to repeat that comment or not. Hyenas are weird animals. They're fantastic. So I'm hoping you're meaning weird in a good way. They have a lot of unique biology. They're definitely on the bizarre side of things. Maybe they are slightly weird. but they're also incredible. The way they survive out here is just remarkable. As with most species, they all have their own survival strategies. They all have their unique specializations. I just think they're adorable. Maybe I'm biased. But yes, they do have... Oh, there's incoming. Someone's incoming, Davy. I think it actually might be Sutu again. Another full belly, that's for sure. But yes, I guess they are slightly strange in their genitalia maybe, or the fact that their bodies slope downwards. But other than that, they're just like any other species out here. They have their own way of surviving. The sort of giggle that they produce is just a noise from their voice box. And we just find it slightly demonic because it sounds like a giggle to the human ears. It is Sutu. Sutu's slightly fluffier. She's still young and she's got that fluffy appearance. So yes, we associate that giggle to be demonic, but that's just a human perception. It's just a noise. Just like a saw or a roar or an impala snort. It's just a vocalization that they make. But because it's sort of we just associate it to be quite a demonic giggle. And I think one particular movie, The Lion King, did not do any favors whatsoever for hyenas. They've had such a bad reputation in the past. I actually wrote down the quote from Hemingway. It's not a positive quote, and I'm just going to read it to you. So, Hemingway, the hyena, hermaphroditic, self-eating devourer of the dead, potential biter off your face at night while you sleep. That's how he described them. Definitely does not give them a good reputation in any way whatsoever, and is very inaccurate. They're not hermaphrodites whatsoever, and they don't dig up graves. That was another thing that he was suggesting, that they dig up graves to eat bodies. No, they don't. They do scavenge. But then so do all the predators out here. Or maybe not so much wild dogs and cheetah, but at least your lions, leopards, and hyenas, they all scavenge from one another if they can. Darby, that's not ticks on her, is it? That's just...
Well, it's just in our plate, right?
Mud or grass. Yes, I think it's just mud or... You think it's flies? As long as it's not ticks. If it was ticks, then that's a very high tick load for one area. Sutu's leaving again. There's not enough entertainment in the den, so off she goes. Sutu is June's older daughter. So she is a half-sister of that tiny little cub that's in the den. And she's also like Swazi in that she's still very young and she loves to play, she loves the excitement, she loves socializing, she loves to be around her clan members. They're very social animals. Yes, they can be aggressive because they've got to be. Kim, I would love to know where Swazi is. Ribbon, do you know where Swazi is? Believe it or not, he was actually here last night. Simon and I came to the den for a short period of time. But of course, there was lots of action with the leopards. But he was here last night. And he was very sort of somber and very quiet. And then all of a sudden, Corky's daughter appeared out of nowhere. And he got so excited. The two of them were just... Did you just say heart, Davy?
Isn't that hard?
Oh. There's Hearticus. And you can't see her very well, but what you can see is that extremely full belly. We will position round in just a moment. But that's the only adults I can see. But yes, Corky's daughter came out and Swazi just got so excited and immediately his entire behaviour changed. And they just chased one another. Boing, 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 boing. Never-ending game of tag between that pair. So this is Heart and Ribbon both at the den together. I mean, one's at one side, one's at the other side, but that's fine. They're both doing the job of being a mother. They need their space. But they're both here. Okay, so I'm going to just position around the other side to get some different views. And hopefully there's maybe some other hyenas lying around.
And then we lost it. We lost it somewhere there.
Somewhere where? In the tree?
And we left the track somewhere on one of the roads going into the bush. Sorry about that. So we still on a search. But first things, you know, we're checking here quarantine where the Kalamba was. And there's quite a lot of impala there where she was seen yesterday or evening feeding on that scrub hare. So we're just gonna drive this road here, check carefully up in trees maybe, because very wet. Since yesterday we had over 60mm rain, so it's wet. So wherever she is right now, she could be either on top of the termite where it's clear, or maybe on the road, or up in trees. So this is where we're going to be starting to check. If you don't come right, we still have a plan to go check on the audio of the lions that was heard roaring far south.
Yeah, it is a terrapin. Good morning to all our viewers and welcome to a very wet andBeyond Ngala, where this morning we are looking at all the little creatures that's out and about after last night's bout of rain. You can see over there's a Natal spurfowl just walking over and having a look at a small little terrapin. What a beautiful view indeed. Now I'm Yapi and behind the camera we've got BK. And this morning we had so much rain last night that we won't be able to drive most of our roads this morning, which means that we are going to have a look along the riverbed, which is, believe it or not, it wasn't good enough rain for the river to flow actually, but there's a lot of puddles around at the moment. And with that, we have a lot of birds and a lot of the smaller creatures out and utilizing this opportunity given to them after the rains. Now, we have some doves out in the riverbed as well. I've seen a lot of little creatures all about in this area, and I think they are just having a look around to see what they can find. I know some of the other birds are picking up on the little beetles and flying insects that's out at the moment. You can see 2 Cape turtle doves there. And you can hear it's just alive with bird sound at the moment. But the colors are beautiful this morning. Everything's been washed clean. And even though we don't have any signs from yesterday that we can work with, at least we know this morning we'll be able to find the very fresh tracks. Anything that might lead us At the moment, it's also very quiet, so we'll be able to, whenever we stop, listen out for any sounds that might indicate the presence of anything nearby. I think we're going to continue along the Timbavati riverbed, head up towards a watering hole, and hopefully we'll be able to find some signs of wild dogs this morning. One can look for along the riverbed is always some elephants, maybe buffalo bulls. Now, because it's generally cooled down quite a lot, especially from yesterday midday and yesterday afternoon, animals like the elephants are a lot more active and they don't have the heat stress they had. Now, this morning we're going to have to drive quite careful because the road as well as the track in the riverbed that we drive on is full of puddles, and there's lots of little creatures like the terrapins that's moving towards that. Also the leopard tortoise. If we have some luck this morning, we might get to see a leopard tortoise, hopefully a nice big one. But larger animals, they're quite active on a day like today. It's not that warm, so they'll be able to move without having to worry about the heat in the middle of the day. And I'm also hoping that because of that, we'll have the wild dog looking to hunt some impalas this morning. Now, the wild dog is a creature that hunts early morning and late afternoon. And on a day that it's overcast and it was a little bit rainy, we find that they can be quite active up until late in the morning. So, last night at one point the rain was coming down so heavily that this morning we thought that it would make the river flow, at least. But luckily for us, it was at one point it was heavy, but after that it was quite a slow, light drizzle that just kept on going throughout the night. In this particular area, normally when it's thunderstorms, it's like a short, heavy bout of rain, and that often means that a lot of water comes down at one point, which means that it doesn't get time to seep into the ground and therefore runs off. And that's when we get the Timbavati flowing, actually. Roland Rock, I did not quite get your question, unfortunately. I'm not... Oh, yes, are snakes more likely to be seen after heavy rain? Yes. Especially after when it's like the birds out on the road at the moment and out in the riverbed, the little insects and the beetles and things that's about, they do provide a hunting opportunity for a lot of snakes that generally feed off insects and other small invertebrates. We also find, I know one of the snakes that we tend to see, which is actually quite rare to see in these spots, but one that we see after rains often is the black file snake. And there's a lot of snakes that live under the ground. So once the rain has come down and the soils are soft, then it's easier for them to burrow and come out to the surface. Now you can see up ahead we have the first puddle, and on this morning we have to negotiate these puddles very, very carefully, because you never know how deep they are. But so this is one of the lifelines, so to speak, that the rain brings to this area. These puddles are formed all throughout the Timbavati riverbed, and it will eventually provide much needed water for animals. So I think we're going to continue along the Timbavati for now and see what we can find.
We came over this little hilly section behind us and came across quite a beautiful scene of this giraffe out in the bottom of this drainage here. So a little pan system and quite beautiful green grass, and he was walking across to the right, and I beg my pardon, she was moving across to the right, and she stopped, had a look at something. I'm not sure if there was something making a noise to our left back there, but she is clearly interested in whatever is making that noise. You can see very focused in that direction, ears pricked forward, and sometimes, oh, and there she goes. So I'm not sure now, she's running in that direction. Not sure what she's seen there. There's some monkeys in the background running around on the ground, so I'm sure it's nothing too hectic. I'm just going to move a little bit forward for us here. If we can carry on seeing where she's going. Oh, I see some more giraffe up on the road on top there, so maybe they came up and crested the hill. She heard them making a noise and decided she was going to head off and join them. It was such beautiful light coming through the corner there. The sun's risen about half an hour ago now, and the light in this landscape is really, really beautiful now. There's a lot of green grass that was dead and is now kind of greening from the bottom. So we've got this like very textured ground underlying green tones, and then beautiful neutral natural golden grasses that are still on the top a little bit above the green, which just gives it this beautiful, beautiful texture. Those giraffes look like they are now feeding, so they're moving slowly. You'll often see them moving, stop and feed for a little bit. Gracie giraffe running is I always find it quite funny. I think they're quite comical in the way that they run. I always feel like it looks like they're running in slow motion. But if you actually are with them and taking note of how much ground they're covering, there's nothing slow about it. But it is quite a cool thing to sit and watch and get to experience. They're quite comical. I think their shape as well, with such a long neck and such long legs, gives them quite a funny appearance when they start moving quickly. So those giraffe look like they're moving up the hill. There's not too many trees on the top, but as you start going down the back side of that hill, there's some really, really lush green bushes. After the rain now, I'm sure there's plenty of green shoots coming through for these giraffe to feed on. We are going to leave these giraffe now and carry on with our search for lion this morning. I believe Andrew has some elephants for you, so we're going to shoot across to him, and I'm sure I'll see you guys shortly, hopefully with a lion.
Thanks, Dave. Now we find a beautiful herd of elephants, and it's amazing how they just come to this very open area here. And as you can see, the ground is wet, and they're all just gonna play with water as much as they can as they move through. Now they're in this kind of grass called bush-veld signal grasses in this open area, where it is also very good for them to graze as they move through. So they're enjoying the weather, cloudy, and still chance of them getting to move, push far wherever they need to get in. So it's also what they now we can hear the growling. That's one of the communication system they use among the group, and understanding that some of them already walk across the open area, and some of them are still right in front of us. So they're trying to either this is where we're going to be static here, or the rest will come back this way, or they were going to head over to the other respawners. Science, age 11. So how do we determine the age of elephants? So size of the animal, especially on elephants, and that's how you determine their age. And especially, it's not actually easy when they're already anything from 30, 35 years old, because in there they're far too big. But these that you see moving through here, we're looking at anything from year, over the year, and 2 years old, 2 years and a half older that is moving on the far end. Now it's behind the bush. So when they're like this age, you can still determine very easy, because not even Tusker that has shown up there yet, so they're still under a year or just above a year old. And those are the bigger one here that we've seen, all females. They are most fully grown animals. Megan, you say you love baby elephants. They're so beautiful, they're so cute looking animals. And they are sometimes playful. The This morning I think they don't do much of that. They're probably concentrating on moving, feeding, as you can see. But when it's static, you will love them more, that they push one another as a teenager group up in one side. Michael, you say this is such an peaceful and enjoying sighting. You're right. It's such a beautiful, and all you hear in the background, all bird sounds and all of it, since the rain stopped. So it's such an amazing sighting. I agree there. Just looks like they're all scattered all over. As you can see, some of them already moving in. Oh, that one is like a reddish color. I think they've been playing in a very different soil out there. Grass is wet, a lot of moisture. And they will able to drink less water because the grass is wet. Also to pluck grass out of this ground, and it's easy, but sometimes it comes a whole shift of the whole bunch of roots of grasses. For that they have to manage how to select or tumble, which many of times happens in the winter where there's not much. They have to pluck all the shift of grasses, all come out with roots, and they have to tumble it to get rid of the sand and before they've eaten that. But now they're not doing it, they're actually taking the top pretty much of this grass. Looks like we've got a male in the far end coming this way. Now you can tell the difference between now. Look at the female and the male right in the end. It's a fully grown bull. Look at the size of the tusk, way too thicker compared to the female, even though it looks like he's got only one tusk. This male is probably hooked up with them. Somewhere where they just come from. And he's probably going to spend maybe less time with them if there's no business here, or just going to check. Looks like he's not on mast. Probably just going to be a company for now, and he will probably make his way out to join the other males or be isolated by himself. Jojo. So you're asking if the males are larger than the female. Yes. And if we look at this size of bull here, and all the female that we've seen walk past, then you could easily see that, it's very big in size. And they're way too far big compared to the female as well. The male weigh over 6 ton, average 6 ton really, but it can be more than that if it's in a bigger bull. That's why it was a lot of a communication here. It's because then there was more left in the far end. Maybe they already have joined the group here. Probably this is where they're gonna just move on. I'm gonna try reposition here. Close to that male with the other female back there. So they're heading in the direction of southwest at the moment. Yeah, I think we've got this bull again. And there's a visual of more of them like there. Just gonna take a silent moment of the silence here just to watch them and also hear the all sound from birds and other sounds of the animal. Looks like now they're heading in a very wet area. So I'm going to drive the road here. If we see more close to the road, then we can stick with them.
This This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one. Okay.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hello everyone, I am Yapi and I am a safari guide at andBeyond Ngala. My favorite animal is the lion because 99% of the time it doesn't do anything. And the 1% of the time it does, it's just awesome.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to our lion search here this morning. We spotted what I think was a martial eagle from quite a distance away, perched up in a tree. So we came to investigate. We didn't find any martial eagle, but we did find some other black and white creatures. There's a herd of about roughly 30 zebra that we came across here. They are slowly moving from a watering hole towards maybe some better grazing area, but it's quite special for Phinda. We don't often see this many zebra together, so very cool to see. We thought we'd come and give you guys a little bit of the action. You can see lots and lots of tails swinging around, so I think the flies are already out in force, pestering everybody. The tails that, for most animals actually, but for zebra in particular, are used often to try chase flies away, so you'll see them swishing around lots and lots. As this herd now, they've moved past us, so we can kind of see all of their backsides, and the tails swishing around is a very, it's standing out quite a lot over here. Still got some quite beautiful morning light. Momo, a dazzle of zebra. I can only assume because they're dazzling when they are together in a herd. They are quite impressive animals. They're, I guess, quite majestic and quite pretty, and maybe to some people quite attractive and dazzling. These zebra, you can see lots of them actually got quite a lot of dark in them, and we've had, I've mentioned already, quite a bit of rain the last couple of days, and the soil around us here is quite red. So we might find just a little bit of residue of that red soil on their coats from when they were rolling around in the mud a day or two ago. You were on drive with Deerwald, I think 2 evenings ago. There was that beautiful pair. It was just 2 zebra, and the one was red, and the other one hadn't rolled around in the mud at all. So almost looking like 2 different species. quite cool how they do that. We find that often with elephant and rhino and warthogs as well. All the animals that wallow here in Phinda is depending on where they wallow and what color the soil is where they've wallowed, they can look like or be very contrast in color, from a very light kind of off-white color to red to very brown. I think probably the most amazing show of that different coloration from wallowing is in the Tosha Pan, where the elephants wallow in that white mud, and they come out and they walk around looking white, which is quite unusual for a grey animal. The wind is picking up here this morning, which is going to bring a little bit of chill, I think, to the air. It's going to keep it cooler for a little bit longer, which could be quite nice. But we also might find these animals moving into slightly thicker areas. Yeah, they do look a little bit braided, hey Linda. The tails, as they swish around, I think they probably do get quite braided. And I'm not sure if you've ever felt the hairs on a zebra's tail or on a giraffe's tail, but they're actually really, really thick. I think if you were to braid them, you could make some pretty serious rope out of it. I haven't tried, but I'm just imagining. Yeah, these zebras, they're moving up this hill into a slightly thicker area. I think we're going to lose view in a couple minutes. Oh, there's a yellow-billed kite coming past us here now as well. Just riding the updraft. I don't know if we're going to be able to follow it too nicely. No. So yeah, I've just mentioned that wind. So yellow-billed kites are famous for slope soaring. They're riding the winds that are rising up as they hit slopes. So I'm sure we'll see lots of those around. We might even see those vultures that we saw earlier start slope soaring. Another really impressive bird that we don't really get down here in Phinda is a southern ground hornbill, but I think they're beautiful. Some people don't think so. But we're going to shoot across to Ngala now, and let's see what they've got there for you.
So we're still in the Timbavati Riverbed, where we've been spending most of our morning this far, and we've come across this group of southern ground hornbills. And I'm not sure if our viewers can hear, but they are currently doing their morning call. That's a young one, that one. You can see it doesn't have that red gullah flap yet. But that is... I'm going to move a little bit back. They're going to come out. They just went behind the reeds. Ooh, wow. Now, when it jumped up on that deadlock, you saw the white wings. It's actually quite good. When it flies, it's really large. Expected to be able to fly when you look at it, because it spends most of its time on the ground. But a high perch like that is always advantageous. Looking down for anything moving at this point. And these birds really, they go after anything. Even small terrapins might be out at the moment. Frogs around the puddles. Burrowing snakes or skinks. you can see, if you have a look at it carefully, you'll notice it's looking on the ground the whole time. What is the lifespan of a southern ground hornbill? I'm actually not too sure exactly, but it is quite long. These birds are quite long-lived. I know that sometimes the difference between, or the time between take up to 9 years. So it is a long-lived bird, and I'm sure with ages like that, they usually can live a lot longer than what one might think. Oh wow. So apparently they seem to live for up to 40 to 50 years, which is extremely long. And I know some larger bird species are quite long-lived. Some birds of prey as well as some parrots. This bird looks a little bit lost at the moment, and there we go. That is amazing. I wonder... I don't see the rest of the group at the moment. I thought earlier I saw this particular bird walking up in front of the group. And when they were calling, he was the first one, the others would respond. Have a look. That is a piece of elephant dung that's just been turned over. Lisa, these birds do not nest on the ground. They nest in hollowed out tree trunks up to about 8, 10, 12 meters off the ground. I know this particular group, I'm assuming, is the group that's nesting not far from where we are, further down the riverbed. There's a big hollowed out jackalberry that's broken off years ago, and they are in that cavity, or they were in that cavity with the young one. So it's not uncommon to find them in the nearby clearings or in the riverbed early morning. I think this morning the riverbed is quite productive, hence the great view. But yeah, it would be good to stay here and see what these birds get up to now.
The rain has... What was that, you two? The rain has started coming down here. And, oh my goodness, look at the size of Heart. She is huge. And, of course, the cubs are doing their usual. I mean, there's only 2 sets of 2 cubs, if that makes sense. Corky's daughters, a single cub. No litter mates. And Junebug is also a single cub with no litter mates. So out of the 2 sets of pairs, Heart's cubs, 1 boy, 1 girl, are probably the most aggressive towards one another, which is normal behavior for hyena cubs. But, oh, they like to compete, they like to fight, they like to wrestle. Always got a point to prove. I imagine hyena twin litter start fighting in the womb. What is happening here? Why are you sitting on your mother's face? She's trying to sleep. Ngwazi and Shimbulu, from what I can gather, Ribbons boys, Ngwazi, his name is adventurous, but is definitely the slightly more braver one, the more confident one and marginally dominant. Shimbulu's slightly more reserved, a little bit shyer and not as confident. But this pair, they're both very confident. I think that's the drizzling stop now, thank goodness. Devin, you're asking about brown hyenas. They'll have their own territories, but they will overlap with spotted hyenas. You don't actually get any brown hyenas in this area, but in Tswalu, for example, you get both spotted hyenas and brown hyenas. So they won't share territories. They're two separate species. Just because they belong to the same family, Hyenidae, does not mean that they will have any sort of relationship, just the same as leopards and lions don't. They belong to the same genus. So their territories will overlap. They will most likely be very similar, but they will not share the territory, if that makes sense. But they will live sympatrically, and I imagine their territories will be quite similar. Are you okay there, Dobby?
Very stinky.
Yes, the odour is not pleasant. I think Hart has got some gas problems this morning. Sorry, everyone, just give me a moment.
It's getting into the peanut butter.
Wonderful. Not smelly creatures in general, but when they've got half a carcass inside of them, it can be a little bit difficult being downwind of a hyena. But in all fairness, look at Hart's condition. Other than her belly, look at how strong those muscles are around her neck and her shoulder blades. And that's what I was trying to say about Ribbon. She just looks slightly weak in her upper body. Look at their upper body, so strong, especially compared to those back legs. The back legs are smaller and definitely weaker. That's just the body shape. She's going towards Ribbon. I actually want to get a look to see if we can see them interact. Hopefully not into a tree. She's going right towards Ribbon. Ah, there we go. Lovely interaction. Everybody's all together now. There was absolutely no interaction there at all. Hart came over, had a little sniff. Ribbon didn't move. But right now, based on size, Hart looks a lot bigger. He's a big girl. But I just wondered if there would be any aggression between them there, but there was absolutely zero. Sayash, you're asking, can hyenas get fleas the same as dogs do? I'm really not sure. I mean, they're wild animals. They're also parasites, little fleas that sort of consume your blood, steal from their hosts. I would imagine they could, but I'm really not sure. I'm afraid about fleas and hyenas. Hart's pair are definitely wide awake now. Ribbon's boys, not so much. They're a pair of mummy's boys. They always like to be around mom. So I know there was a little bit of speculation about Ribbon's position. From what I can see, she's still very much at the top. Theo, I think I just answered your question, but yes, absolutely. There's no evidence otherwise whatsoever. The Heart's very dominant, but she's a high-ranked female. She always has been. I mean, that's normal. She's still high-ranked. She's still above June. She's still above Corky. She's always had a close relationship with Ribbon. And Ribbon's got Intima, so she's got a daughter. She's got sort of backup. She's got a little army, even although it's only an army of two. It's only the two of them. She's still got that. And she's very, very much at the top. I haven't seen any evidence otherwise. I think that would be impossible to say. Yes, she's injured, or she's got an injury. But she'll bounce back. She's fed. Who knows what she fed on, but she's well fed there. And I absolutely think she's still at the top. Really don't think matriarchal takeovers happen that often. I really don't think it's a common occurrence. But that we know of, at least. There's not that many matriarchal takeovers being recorded. Oh. Hello, Heart. They could occur more common than we realise, to be perfectly honest, but I'm not sure. I think that. I don't think it would benefit the clan for there to be another matriarchal takeover, but you never know. We're learning a lot more about them. Waffles did it. Ribbon did it. Heart, dear, are you okay there? The adults show absolutely no interest in the vehicles like the cubs do. For the cubs, the vehicle is just the best thing in the world. See, we actually run. We run to come and see the vehicle. And then we disappear underneath it, and who knows what's happening. Is there one right underneath you, Dravi? And Heart's like, why have you gone under that car, children? But just as far as I can see from observations, there's absolutely no change in the relationship between Ribbon and Heart whatsoever. I think Heart's gone back to her throne now. Or is she? Heart, please don't do the toilet there. Good girl. She's actually leaving. She's walking off, but Ribbon's still here, so of course we don't have to leave. There's still an adult on site. The matriarch is still here. So we're going to try and stay here as long as we can at the den, and we're now going to send you across to Andrew with a bird.
Thanks, Lorraine. So now... It's a beautiful call. So we're looking at the Swanson's spare fowl, which is actually out here, seems to be one of the biggest of the Francolins, or spare fowls. If you look at its leg, it's got a little bit of these spurs. So it's a male. That little kind of spiky backwards in its leg. So we actually on the western boundary now. Djuma is on the east, and Simbambile boundary also with Aratuza was a track of a male leopard. Well, it's not great though. The rain is over on top. Seems to cross from Djuma to the west again crossed back and looks like crossed back again to the west. So we're trying to find out, probably maybe he was on a hunt, or he was busy scent marking, but I would think of hunting. Sorry, I missed that question there. Yeah, then I actually missed that question really, and I didn't really get it well. It's probably a little bit of wind in my ear. Right, oh yeah, now I got it a little bit. Yes, it does. Standing on its talons, or probably the legs. And this is how they do that. You know, up now looks like far up to this tree here. So its call can travel further. This is all communication now. So there's a dead tree, you know, mainly of the francolins, so they can actually perch on trees, especially at night. And I stop here because sometimes when up in a tree is a presence of maybe there's a predator on the ground, but it doesn't look like it's about that. Call and communication. Oh, something frightening it. Probably hoping for a response, the way he's now looking around or seeing some of the other friends around here. Sprinting. In this kind of weather, it's going to be very difficult for birds to get warm. So Toby asking if this bird common in Djuma. Yes, they're very common. We mainly find them in very dark soil type. Make room for the car that's coming in. So in a very ducky soil, and that's where you normally find them around here. So we have all 5 different species of these spare fowls, from cocky, crested, shellies, Natal, Francolin, and these swansons. So we all have them around. So we don't have a river Francolin, which is, I haven't actually seen one out here. Megan, yeah, indeed, you're right. You know, this kind of call, especially from that height, listen. So the call transfer far too much. And it's such a beautiful call type. But they're also easy bird to identify where they have like a red face on them. And they're kind of browny color. So then if it's no response, we'll keep calling until there is response. So I'm gonna check our tracks over here. Leopard. So I'm gonna keep on check this road over here. In the meantime, I'm gonna be sending you over across to Lauren at the den.
Ribbon is slowly get. What have you got in your mouth? Did you see that, Darby? One of the cubs has something. I don't think it looked like an animal-related object. Anyway, Ribbon's slowly getting up. It'll be really, really lovely if we can see her stand up and watch her walk. I just saw Shimbulu. He's now under the car, so unfortunately I cannot show you him. And he's not limp. Oh, it was a bit of a limp there, wasn't it? Oh, that's not Shimbulu. The four cubs are just running amok. I can't keep track of them anymore. Okay, Ribbon's standing. But if she leaves, unfortunately, we'll have to leave. Tori, you're asking, will a hyena ever kill a bird?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, there we go. There we go. She's walking better than she has, 100%. There's definitely still a limp there, without a doubt. But but she's walking better than she ever had. Ribbon's getting better. Let's not worry. And will a hyena ever kill a bird? Yes, I would imagine so, if it can. If it has that opportunity, absolutely. Hyenas are opportunistic. I really don't think there's much a hyena would turn down, to be perfectly honest. And if there's a bird on the ground that's not spotted the hyena lurking there, then yes, absolutely would. We just don't see them hunt often, and it's rather unfortunate because it just doesn't help their reputation. They have a reputation of scavenging, which is really not a bad thing. But yet it just has so many negative connotations, and I wish it didn't, because scavenging is actually extremely cool. It requires intelligence, it requires stealth, it requires patience, and it cleans up the ecosystem. But yet it just has a really bad reputation, even when it comes to vultures, when it comes to any scavenger, really. But hyenas do hunt. There's no way. Look at the density of leopards we have here, the number of hyenas we have here. There's no way that the Djuma clan could survive and thrive the way it is just scavenging from leopards, or potentially a lion pride when they come through. No. They have to be hunting. Maybe it's just a scrub here. Maybe it's a lot of scrub pairs. Maybe they just snack all day and all night, but they definitely do hunt. And I imagine birds would also make a great snack. There's always a ring-necked dove hanging around the den. Fearless. Totally unaware. And not fazed by all of these hyenas. But birds take effort. Got to make sure they don't see you. And of course, at any moment, they can fly away. Ruben's still there, everyone. Just in case you wonder why I've not left. She's lying down just behind that bush. I don't know if Davy will be able to get a view of her, but I can see her. They're looking at her. So I will leave, but that's why I'm not immediately pulling out, because she's still here. I wouldn't say unusual. I think any twin litter of cubs, they almost come out of the womb battling, constantly striving for dominance. Really, you'll see them fighting and wrestling from day one. But with a male and female litter, with a mixed litter, it's pretty much obvious from the start. The female will always take the lead. But the male will try. Of course they will. When they're a cub, they will absolutely try and battle and fight and strive for dominance. It's sort of innate behavior. But very soon it will become apparent that the females do take the lead. Of course they do. If you look at andBeyond and Swazi, they're still young and they still very much spend time together, no longer fight, but they're treated very differently by other clan members. The females accept Swazi. They don't accept, well, they do accept andBeyond, but they really sort of are very aggressive towards her. It's just a different life path for being a male and then being a female hyena. But the male cubs absolutely will try. Okay, bye everyone. You stay nice and warm in that den of yours. At least we got to see the hyenas this morning. And the rain has stopped. And it's no fun driving around in rain. But let's see what else we can find. They're all still there. But we are going to leave. Because, of course, Ribbon has disappeared for the time being. Davy and I actually heard alarm calls coming over there, but I wondered if it was Sutu walking. Oh, here we go. Hello. Is he standing up on the mound, Davy? Yes, he is. This is the old hyena den, my favourite one. I'm not sure we're going to get good views here. What do you think? Go round. We can't off-road, I'm afraid, everyone. It makes it a little bit tricky. What about here, Davy? Look at that. There's nothing quite like an elephant on a termite mound. Okay, we're going to try and stick with this bull a little bit longer and see where he goes.
So we've come to a watering hole, which at this point is quite alive, and I think it would be good for our viewers just to have a listen to all the different sounds in the area. You hear lots of birds calling in the background. The well-known bush coo of the woodlands kingfisher.
Alright, so we're still on checking here. No tracks, no luck of a leopard that we thought maybe he might cross back to the east again. And I know it was not actually very fresh, though the rain's on top, but it's a male. You could see, that he was actually moving during that pouring rain. Where I believe this was all about hunting, and it was not all about scent marking. Where usually they wouldn't do that scent marking too much if then it's pouring rain, because it's a waste of their time. It's going to be immediately washed off by the rain. They'd rather wait for it to dry off, and they'll carry on with that. Tom, so the whole entire summer, I'm not sure, but I know since the rain that we have yesterday and over the night only, that it was over 60 millimeter rain. So, but I'll find out for the whole entire summer that how much was it. Which I think it was not bad though. When you look, the whole dam that is full now. Rain to fill up this old dam, you need over 200 mil, sometimes 300 mil, which is, yes, some years are all different. Christine, so you're asking if then it's going to be more of a flying insect after the rain? Yeah, I think so. If it's ever stop, maybe today, and then the heat take place in the afternoon, yes, it's going to be a lot of a flying insect. Then more likely to happen dusk and dawn in the afternoon. And it's true. You're right. All the rain that we had, all brings a lot of change to an ecosystem where everything that was damaged during the winter, it's all now repaired up. Trees that was break down by elephants, the growth taking the places, grass species has rise up, and then it's going to be much sustainable for those grazers and browse. So yeah, it's good for a change though. It's such a beautiful. So I'm going to carry on check here, and for a leopard track or anything, In the meantime, I'll be sending you over to Yapi with his surprising thing.
Well, I hope Andrew finds that leopard, but we've been very lucky. We have come across a pack of wild dogs, which at this point is quite cold and all huddled together. Look at that dog trying to squeeze himself in between the other two. Trying to get a little bit of warmth. It's quite an interesting marking on the backside. Over the shoulders, the bib. If I'm not mistaken, that is the female. Perfect fit. Oh, it's quite a cool day here, and normally on a day like this, given the chance, these animals might attempt a hunt. If anything had to come past this area now, it's not a bad spot. Actually, quite a good spot for an opportunity this morning. You can see the green grass. There's an open patch. There's another one laying down there. I can see one. Might be one or two. And that one looks like it's far. And there's a little bit of movement in the ear. Really, really large ears that you can see. That animal that just picked up its head now. You can imagine big ears like that, how well they'll pick up on the sound of anything moving nearby or any danger approaching. I did hear some lions calling early morning. I'm sure these animals are aware of the lions within the area, and they do tend to try and avoid them. Now, normally if they get the chance, they will be hunting this morning, even a little bit later than usual. But at this point, I think after a long night, quite a cool breeze blowing, decided to huddle together here to try and warm up a little bit and rest. I'm sure they don't get too much rest during the night. And also, if you look very, very carefully, you can see the wet fur. Especially that dog in the middle with her head on top of the other one. You can see on the backside a white patch there, slightly longer. Now my guess is, and from what I've seen, that these dogs are still younger dogs and not too old. Generally, the older they get, the fur starts to thin out. But it is not a very, very dense or very thick coat. It is quite thin. And also because of their active lifestyle and the way they hunt, running for long, long distances at any given point, there's not too much fat on these animals either. So body warmth, the best way to go at this point. So Fries, would lions ever hunt wild dogs? Yes, they do indeed. I can tell out of my own experience. I've seen a couple of times where lions have actively searched out wild dogs, whether it's the den or the animal itself. I know in the past we've had some situations where the den sites were discovered by lions, and the lions got hold of one or two of the dogs, younger ones specifically, that not quite aware of the danger that the lion can pose, and the lions killed them. Also, given the chance, if the dog come across a lion and conditions are such that the dog is not aware of the lion's presence, then the lion will definitely try and attack the dog and maybe even kill it if it can catch it. It is one of the biggest predators of wild dog, and also the dogs in this particular area, they often tend to try and avoid the lions by moving in different areas. When the lions move in one part of the reserve, the dogs hear them call, they might move out completely or try and keep their distance as far as possible. There's a little bit of competition. They're both top predators. In terms of where they sit on the food chain with the wild dog, it's usually a bit... If you section with the other large predators, you'll be quite surprised. They don't seem to be too bothered by the hyenas, although they do lose a lot of food to hyenas scavenging from them. I've also seen them chase leopards up trees. The unwanted attention and the number of animals within the wild dog pack is probably a little bit overwhelming for a predator such as a leopard. But with lion, it's a little bit different. Pangolini, when will a large pack split up? If the pack gets too large to hunt a particular area, then there might be a split. Maybe some of the other dogs that's got a natural leading instinct might have some of the dogs move off with it. Ooh, there's a bit of movement. It might just be to reposition. And I think it's also having a look around. I wonder where it's going now. Maybe that was it. Maybe that's a decision to try and move, or maybe it's looking for some insects. But yes, wild dogs split up. Once the year's pups have helped raise the others, they will split off. The young females will go off on their own and then find same-sex groups of males as well. We are going to head over to Lauren with a vulture.
We have a vulture. A white-backed, a soggy one. It's a long-distance visual, I'm afraid, but this bird looks very wet and also not very amused. Oh. He's saying, no, I'm okay. Grooming, getting the water off the feathers, having a little preen. When you talk about grooming in birds, you normally say preening, and a lot of birds have a preen gland where they're able to dip their sort of beak into it, and it secretes oil, and this oil, the preen oil, they're able to coat over their body and over their feathers for protection. Now, it's worth stopping when you see a vulture, trying to assess the scenario. It could just be one vulture, one lone vulture that just decided to rest in the tree. They're heavy birds, and therefore dead trees especially trees like leadwood, are absolutely perfect for just perching on, spending the night there, and then waiting until you're ready in the morning to fly or ride the thermals. So you need a solid branch, you need a solid place to sit due to your weight. And the higher up the tree is better, because you can actually gain a little bit of momentum from dropping off. You don't have to jump into the air. You can literally just sort of drop off or fall off the branch, and then this will give you a little bit of momentum for flight. So one vulture doesn't necessarily mean that there's a kill or a carcass nearby. If there was 10 vultures in this tree, then I would be suspicious. Johan, they do get their own food, but it's not from hunting. They are scavengers. And it's very crucial that they do scavenge. Their whole anatomy, their physical features are specialized for the life of scavenging. So what you normally find is that vultures have incredible eyesight. So they'll ride the thermals up high in the sky in order to save energy during flight. And they'll be looking at the ground. They'll be looking for carcasses, or they will also be looking for predators, be mostly lions. Once they see the lions, they tend to follow them, not directly above them, but just keep their eyes on them, because normally lions will make a kill, and they'll make a really large kill, like a buffalo, or even the hippo carcass that Darkmane pulled out of the water, or a zebra, and normally that means the vultures can wait very, very patiently, and they will reap the sort of remains, and that will be a win-win scenario for them. So they are scavengers, cleaning up all the carcasses in an ecosystem. So they do eat their own food, they just don't hunt it. They also have a crop, that amazing little sort of sock and pouch in the esophagus. So they can fill their tummies, and then once they're full, they can actually keep food in their crop. It's almost sort of a distensible storage pouch. And the reason they have this is because as a scavenger, your next meal is not always guaranteed. You never know when you're going to get your next meal. You're relying on scavenging. And it's most likely you're not going to feed on a daily basis, so why not just store food in your crop? It's genius. It takes about 2 minutes to fill their crop, and depending on the species, on average they can carry 1.5 kilograms of carrion in that crop. But it remains undigested. It doesn't go through the digestive process. It's high up in the esophagus. It doesn't enter into the stomach. So it just remains undigested in storage. And believe it or not, if they're disturbed or scared by a predator while on the ground, they'll actually regurgitate what's in their crop so that they are a little bit lighter for taking off and running away from predators. And of course, if they do that, they lose out on a banked meal. Not an ideal scenario. You have a fantastic day, Mr. Vulture. I think we're going to bumble on, continue down the southern boundary today and see what we can find. The radio's very quiet. There's not many vehicles out, but we're still going to scratch around and see what else we can find. Chitwa's been a winner for leopards lately. Tandy and... oh my goodness. Everyone, can I just quickly show you this? Wow. I didn't realize the rain was that heavy yesterday. Wow, okay, the Mulwati is flowing. So as I sit and admire this water, we are going to send you across to Phinda.
Right, so we now have managed to come across a tree, not with one vulture in, but with about 12 of them. These are also whiteback vultures, You can see from their size, their shape, and very characteristic vulture kind of look what species they are. And they've congregated in this area, I believe, because there was a carcass here yesterday. So we were chatting about it earlier, about how they'll all come down onto a carcass, sit in trees waiting for any predators before they come down onto the ground. And then once they've finished feeding, what they'll often do is they're very heavy, got very full crops, and instead of flying away and taking to the air again, they'll just find a nice tree to sit in, and sometimes, like in this case, even wait for the next day to arrive before they start moving again. So they were here late yesterday afternoon feeding on the carcass, I think overnight, and then this morning they made their way into these trees. There's actually a couple of trees around here that have all got vultures perched in them. This is definitely the most impressive one that we're looking at though. And after spending the night here, they've maybe digested quite a bit of food, and then they'll take to the air a little bit later this morning. I did mention earlier that they're probably not going to be flying for the next little while because it still hasn't quite gotten nice and warm enough. We've got a little bit of cloud cover here and the sun's only really starting to peek through now. I can just feel the warmth on my back. But these vultures are starting to get active. They've been ruffling their feathers around. I've seen quite a few of them grooming or preening, so they preen their feathers, making sure all the feathers are straightened out, all their pre-flight checks. So before they start flying, they really want to make sure that all the feathers are lined up properly for the most efficient flight. The vulture on the left over here, okay, no, never mind. So I haven't heard of vultures predate or any other large animals predating on vultures, large birds, sorry. I would imagine that some of the larger vultures, so white-headed vultures are one of the smaller species of vultures, and there is a definite hierarchy when it comes to feeding at a carcass. They're bigger vultures like the white-headed vulture, significantly larger than these white-backed vultures, and when they arrive at a carcass, they're very dominant. They'll kind of take over and push these guys out. You can see I was just talking about them getting ready and active to move, looking like they might get moving soon, and now there's two birds that have flown off. You can see lots of these vultures are ruffling their feathers. They are all getting ready now to take off. You can see that it's the big shakes of feathers and really, really exciting. So these birds have got a massive wingspan. Oh, there's a bird on the top right there. He didn't quite manage to get all the feathers in line. You can see there's a feather sticking out on its back, which is very much out of place. That's not a good place for efficient flight. Now, these white-backed vultures will also nest in trees like this. Maybe slightly bigger than the tree that they're sitting in now, but in open savanna, they'll pair up and nest in this sort of environment. Now, another vulture that looks very similar to this is the Cape vulture. The Cape vulture is significantly bigger, but almost exactly the same body shape. Except one big difference is they nest in colonies and in cliffs. Now, we don't have many kind of ideal cliff faces around this area for Cape vultures to nest, and as a result we actually very rarely see them here. So we mostly get these white-backed vultures, lappet-faced vultures, if you're really lucky, and sometimes even hooded vultures, which are again even smaller than these ones that we've got here. But for now, we're going to carry on with some tracks and signs of a cheetah we were following up on. And it sounds like Yapi's got some wild dogs for you. So we'll send you across there. We're going to carry on for these cheetah, and we'll hopefully see you in a little bit.
Is it?
Yeah.
So you can see nothing's changed for these dogs at this moment. Still down, laying close to each other to warm up. But it has started, the sun has started shining, and because of that, some of the members have started moving out in the open. Now, I guess you could call it a sunshine at this point, but the cloud blankets stiffened up a bit. And I think that's exactly what these animals want. It's interesting, like one of the main things after a very wet evening, you find that the animals tend to be found out in clearings the next day. In areas that will warm up, will dry out first. The predators such as the wild dog, a bit of a strategic move, or placing, if you like. You can see, even though they look like they're sleeping and they're laying down, they're still quite alert. Every now and again, one of the heads would pop up and just look in a direction. They're all looking in different directions, spread out over the area to face a different direction and pick up on anything moving there. Now, not far from where they are, watering hole. That watering hole is what animals will come down to come and drink to a little bit later in the morning. And that is if the weather doesn't change again. Have a look at that. You can see the head up. Ooh, something's drawn its attention. Ears focused in the direction of what is a dry riverbed. What I find amazing about these animals is they always look so serious as soon as something draws their attention. Even though they like to play around and joke around, and they're usually a bit of a pest to any other creature nearby. Corey, what time of day do wild dogs usually hunt? They hunt, and then in the late afternoon. But that is not very, very strict. They do change their behavior according to the weather often. Weather has a huge impact on the behavior of animals. I guess just as on some of us. But in the case like today, where it's overcast, quite cool, these animals, I don't think they've tried to hunt this morning yet. They don't look like they've eaten. I don't see any blood on the face or full bellies. So I'm sure they're still looking for opportunity. I think their first priority was to stay warm and try and get as comfortable as possible. But if anything had to come past this area now, which there's a good likelihood of, then they might be up in a flash and try and chase it. I know that normally this particular patch where they are, in fact, just yesterday I saw quite a few waterbuck with young ones in this particular area, as well as a few male impalas. It's a highly contested piece of ground, this, because it's near the large watering hole. It's got good food nearby, dry riverbed running directly behind where these dogs are laying down, And that ensures for a bit of variety in the area for like impala, especially males that have a diet that varies quite a lot from the dry to the wet season as well. Their interest. Impalas both browse and graze, so they eat leaves as well as grass. And the males do stake out a small territory, which they'll do. Because once the females start moving into the area during the rut season, the better sought after landers, the more females will come past. And these wild dogs know that very well. Mandy, wild dogs make a variety of sounds. They don't bark necessarily like you would expect a dog to do, but they do make a chittering sound, especially when they greet each other or when they're very excited. It's a very high-pitched chittering sound. I have heard them bark before. It sounds what sounds the closest, I guess, to what a normal bark sounds like, and that's usually an alarm. So I've seen them do that to lion, or on occasions when people surprise them, or any other predator that they are unsure about. When they get a fright, they'll give a bark. And then also when they split up. So when these animals hunt, they split up often because they chase animals over long distances, and the animal that runs away from them have to run for their life. So they try and cut every corner they can and try and run into the most difficult terrain for the dog to follow possible. And then on occasions you find that some of the dogs are more determined to go for a certain animal, and they split off from the pack. And during these hunts, they can cover very large distances very quickly. So the dogs can be spread out over quite a large area. And in that case, they call each other with a very loud whooping noise. Ooh, that dog's seen something. You can see the ears are flat. It's looking like it might chase something. That's crazy. It's actually like a stork that. You can see now the rest of them have also started paying attention. A quick shake to get rid of the excess moisture. Look at that, that's the exciting pose of a wild dog that's hoping for something to hunt. Now they've moved into quite a tricky spot. Wow, that is actually pretty amazing. That is actually, it looks like there's young ones in the dry riverbed. That is really awesome. Now, I don't personally know this pack very well. I've only saw twice, and at one point we thought that there might be 7, but now I realize that they might be more. And that pose we saw when that dog had its ears flat and stalking down into the dry riverbed, that's exactly something you see from one of the adults when they approach the little ones. And often it's followed a discipline to push over and just be taught a little bit of respect, but also it's in a playful manner. now that we know that there's young ones there, or there might be young ones, I think we're going to stick around for a little longer to see what happens here.
My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique WildEarth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with WildEarth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Thank you very much. What we got here, it's an amazing fruit that is, you see it's hanging on top of that tree. But it's not part of the tree, so it is separate. Now the tree that is hanging from, that's a marula tree as usual, normal tree around here. A marula tree doesn't actually produce such a fruit like that. And it's far right up. There's also quite a few of them there, not only the one. So this is a plant which grows from the ground, usually need support from another tree to grow up higher, and then from there it comes the flowers, and then after the flowers and it comes around the fruit, which is called wild melon or Langeria. Spharakil Langeria, that's what it's called. So Langeria related to means larger flask fruit. That's what it means, Langeria. Joe, so you're asking if it contains a lot of waters in it. And not very much, but inside it's sort of like kind of not 100% melon, but it's wild and it's got a very seed inside and some of the material that the seed lying in, which is all in there. But if you cut it, the water doesn't drip at all. So you can cut it off or between, and all you see is a seed in there. It's actually very good, delicious for kudus and those Ngala, the antelope, to crunch on it. Kind of very big for their mouth, but they do finally get into that, feed on it. So that's an amazing plant that usually, that fruit will be hanging there for at least 2 years sometimes, or a year. And it doesn't actually dry off immediately. It takes slowly dry off. Once So Alfred, you're asking if they smell and right to eat. No, it's not actually, not by human. I never heard of it. And I don't think it's either, I don't know if it's poison, but I never heard of human eating them. But, the squirrels, when it's dry seed, they can go into that, make the special entrance, get into these little seed that is inside, loved by the squirrels. They have quite a lot of baboon here, and they mainly go for any type of fruits. But maybe they don't like it, this one. But also it's actually sort of like in traditional healers, they would use it for a swollen gland and stomach. And this is what they would use for as human if you have any other wound. So I'm going to carry on search here. Don't see any new trace coming in. I got an update from the guys. The lines are far away. We heard them from far away. So I'm going to be sending you across to Ngala. I'm going to look for something else.
So you can see that dog's started to slumber in, and it looks like it's had a very, very long night, even though it just ran down into the dry river bit behind it. And there was quite a bit of confusion for a moment there. I was confused. I thought I saw some pups. Not unusual this time of the year. Atla dogs. This is the time of the year that the younger dogs from the previous year's litter starts hunting with the pack, usually around November, December in this particular area, and that's when the chaos ensues. But what I've noticed with this particular pack now, and I had a look at the coats earlier, and their pelts have quite long fur still on the back sides. Some of the members have really large white patches. Not that that's indicative, but I do think that some of these members are quite young still. If you look at the ears of the dogs, they're not too chapped. I think here and there maybe one or two chips, but it's not like a seasoned wild dog. Now what happens with a pack like this on occasions we found, and this is more than likely what happened with this pack, is it probably started out recently. And normally with wild dogs, not that there's anything that you can say for sure this is definitely how they work, or how their relations work. If there's one thing I've learned about wild dogs over the past few years, it's that whatever you think you know about them, they like to prove you wrong, especially when it comes to dynamics. Now, from what I've noticed, it looks like the larger dogs, the physically larger dogs there on the left, looks like the males. And they look like they might be slightly older as well. And then there's one or two quite young females, much smaller in size, maybe even a pup from a year or two ago. The males do remain within the pack that they're born into, and they assume roles within that, at least for a little while, where the young females, after they've helped the rest of the pack raise the new year's litter of pups, then they might split off and start moving. After a while, some of the males, the young males, will also decide to split off from the natal pack in these little same-sex groups. And then these same-sex groups usually travel for a little while on their own, and that can vary from pack to pack. But what happens is when they do encounter each other, and I think this is the case with this pack. I think it might be a split off from some of the other larger packs within the area, and they have probably formed not too long ago. And why they don't have youngsters with them at the moment. If I got the name correctly, Glenn, is the wild dog population increasing? With wild dogs, generally speaking, in this particular area, the numbers fluctuate quite heavily, actually, from one year to the next year. And it depends on the success of the denning season. Some years you find that some packs just lose their litters quite quickly, and often the whole litter as such, which might be due to disease or predation by other larger predators. But the numbers generally fluctuate between 250 and 400, up to 450, even just in the Greater Kruger Park area. I think it's very, very difficult for people to actually know exactly how many wild dogs there are at any given point in South Africa, since they do come and go. And there's an animal that's very, very tricky to be contained within an area. Once the pressure becomes too big from be it other predators or other dogs, they might move. And in that case, the park boundaries or the protected areas boundaries don't really matter to them. You do have dogs that travel all over, out from South Africa into other nearby surrounding countries and back. But from what we've seen lately, it looks like they're not doing badly. I think more or less stable. But if there's a real increase within Africa, that's very, very difficult to say for sure. I guess it remains to be seen over a very long time. Now, what I've seen before, so this pack at the moment, it looks like there's 6 animals here. And what I've seen before is 6 animals say the alpha female falls pregnant, and the next year she might have 12 to 15 pups, and they have a good season, and from there the pack's numbers grow. And I think while they're laying down, we're gonna stay here with them for now and send you over to Phinda.
Guys, we have some excellent news for you. We have indeed managed to find these cheetah that we were looking for. You can see the mother is sitting up now, and then she's got two cubs, one on either side. The cub on the left is sitting up, and the one on the right is kind of lying down. Myself and Odie were just commenting now and saying, if you have a look at this mother's tummy, she looks extremely full. So I think maybe where those vultures are sitting, it's not too far away from where we are now. They maybe caught whatever animal those vultures finished off last night. And they are, like I said, she looks really, really full. You can see she's breathing quite heavily as well. If you look at her rib cage, it's expanding and contracting really rapidly. It's now just before 8, but it's still, for Phinda at this time in summer, really cool. It's probably around 23, 24 degrees. And not usual for the cheetah to be panting like this unless they really were feeling full. I think if it doesn't look like they've been moving around too much this morning, so that heavy breath is almost exclusively coming from being so full. I'm sure we can all relate to being that stuffed after Christmas and you just feel like you can't move or do anything after a big meal. These cubs are around 6 or 7 months old now. And you can see still quite fluffy. If you joined us yesterday afternoon on our drive, or in the past couple of days, I think the 5 sub-adult cheetah featured quite a few times. They are 10 months old, and if you compare them to these two are quite a bit smaller. Not massively so, but you can notice they are smaller. The head on the left, the head of the one on the left is, you can see, really quite small still. And a lot more fluff as well if you look at the belly and into the armpit there. If you look at the faces of these cheetah, that's a beautiful shot of the mother now. Those very characteristic teardrop markings, which are very specific for cheetah. And they say it helps absorb light so they can see better in the day, in the bright daylight hours. I think a couple of footballers in the past couple of years have used some black eyeshadow under their eyes, copying the cheetah. Don't know, we'll have to ask them if they think it works or not, or if they just think it looks cool. But I think on these cheetah it really does look stunning. The way the mother's sitting now, the way they're sitting with their heads up, you can see very aware of what's happening around them. So cheetah, we know, are really vulnerable to other predators. If lions or leopards or hyenas come moving through, they need to become aware of them as soon as possible so that they can, because they are quicker, run away. But if the other predators get too close, they can get themselves into serious trouble. Indigo Girl, the eyes of cheetah are absolutely stunning. I say to my guests all the time, if you see cheetah in either really early or really late light, it's the absolute best for photography, because if you look at her eyes, the mother's eyes, Odie, if you can just get nice and tight in there, the eyes of cheetah are actually really far back set, and the light doesn't get into them easily. But when the sun's really low on the horizon, then the sunlight goes actually into their eyes and gets into the deep sockets, and this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful orange color comes through. We've just had this big flock of vultures come over us. Now you can see exactly what I was explaining earlier. They're flying in a circle. They are riding a thermal. There's a small little bird that's joined them. It's a batelier, got a very short tail. So these birds are all riding the thermals. Now you notice they're not flapping at all. You can imagine for a bird that's really large and big, it's absolutely perfect. You can just ride the thermaling, the rising air, and it is so easy to fly. So vultures will spend most of the day flying if they're not on carcasses. So it's important for them to conserve as much energy as possible and make their flight as energy efficient as possible, and these rising pockets of air are the perfect tool to use for that. And you can notice they're also shifting across to our left quite quickly. We're above the cheetah less than a minute ago, and they've now moved all the way across to probably a whole sort of 45 degrees in front of us. And I've seen one or two flaps from the flock of them as they have gone off. So what vultures are going to do now is they're slowly going to gain height. So they're going to fly in circles, and they'll rise, gaining height, until they're really high above the surface of the earth, and they feel like they've got enough height to glide for a while. And then what they'll do is they'll leave the thermal and they'll just glide, covering huge distances until they find the next pocket of rising air, and then they'll ride up and up and up and get height again. And that's how vultures are so efficient at finding all sorts of different carcasses. They cover massive distances every day. I can see what I think is a tawny eagle that's flying with them as well, just above us now. But so special to see, and a really good indicator of a healthy ecosystem. Vultures form a critical part of ecosystems as the decomposers. So they help process all the dead, rotting material that an ecosystem has, and it actually helps getting rid of a lot of harmful bacteria from environments. They've got really strong stomachs, and that helps them digest that food and helps them to make sure that they're not going to get that those bacteria and diseases don't perpetuate and propagate through the ecosystem. We are going to hang out with these cheetah for the next little while though, and we'll see you guys in a little bit.
I know people mainly want to see action, especially when they think about the wild dog. But part of the amazing thing of seeing these animals is having to spend these long, quiet periods with them like this. So I think let's just listen. Starting to happen as the sun is slowly breaking through the clouds at this point. And a good scratch.
Thank you very much, Yapi. We're now looking at this beautiful view there, but alongside with Giraffe that we just come across, a southern giraffe. They're all just busy taking their own time feeding in these little bushes around here, since they are browsers. Seen more than one, so it looks like another one in the far end. We can't see it right now, but that's how they do. They sometimes spread around as long as they can see one another from distances. Nocturnal nature is saying its beauty. They saw an elegant animal's giraffe, and looking at the color there, it's still showing it's pretty much of bright and golden yellow, a bit kind of mixed, so it's lighter giraffe. But we're looking at the female due to the horn. So skinny, and she's not very heighty compared to the male. And they are browser, which means they would spend a lot of time feeding on these bushes. And they are very tall enough to reach trees out here. Some trees can be about 25 meter, 30 meter, somewhere there, and 40 meters. But those then is too far. They're only a 6-meter male giraffe can get, and that means can still reach those hanging branches from these tall trees still. And they prefer thorny bushes, like what she's feeding around there on it. That's one of the Cajun aggressors, thorn trees, knob thorn. So which means they would have their preference of the area where it's a lot of these pieces of trees. They would go about and feed on them. Maria, no. Most of the thorn bushes are, I know a lot of time they've been trimmed quite a lot by not only giraffe, a lot of these elephants and kudus, those are browsers most. But, you know, the only thing they do is that these trees, sometimes there is a chemical produced where it's tannin. And then, of course, once the tannin chemical take over to trees, and then animal will notice by taste of the trees that sometimes very sour compared to yesterday or maybe a week ago that animal was there, and that sometimes can stop giraffe feeding in that particular tree or most area where the tannin take over in most trees once is that the system of the chemical has involved in the area. So then sometimes they're more likely to switch places to another area where now trees, they are right or okay to be eaten. So that tannin is only giving a little bit of a chance for the tree to grow more. And next time the chemicals settle down, and this is where giraffe may like it to come back, because the growth would be then develop again. You've seen there's an oxpecker busy gaining access to feed on a parasite of the animal. Those birds associate with most antelopes, such as impalas, kudu. You do find them on a rhino as well. There's warthogs, buffaloes. So everything is quite fresh since the rain just came last night. And these animals will spend a lot of time probably in this area if they ever move because of they have to. And the weather will allow them to still move even though there's still a lot of plants around here. I'm gonna search again around here, see if I pick anything up. I'm gonna be sending you over across to Lauren.
Now we have something fascinating here happening on this Vulture indica. At first I got really excited. I thought it was a flower crab spider. They are absolutely incredible species with unique specializations to catch their prey. They're one of the most successful ambush hunters. But on closer inspection, I don't think it is a flower crab spider, which is rather unfortunate. I don't actually know what species it is. I don't think it's the green lynx. I don't think it's the crab spider. But if any of you know, please do let us know, because it's currently, well, it's camouflaged itself and is feasting on what I think is a very, very small moth. Now, are all spiders venomous? Yes, 100%. Can they all deliver that to humans? Are they all dangerous? No, not at all. There's lots of spiders that actually lack the venom glands to inject the venom. Venom has to be injected. And there's a lot of spiders whose venom... Oh, it is a crab spider. Sorry, that was really loud. Can anyone identify this species? Normally, crab spiders have really bulbous bodies that look almost like they don't fit the body. You get them in different colours, yellow, green, pink, white, to blend in with the flowers. They're the camouflage kings or queens, be it a female. But they're normally really, really small. And they can actually change their colour to suit the host plant. So if they sort of position themselves on a pink plant, they'll start to change the colour to become more pink over time. Now, what they actually do is they just sit and wait. Food does not come along every day. They lie in wait, getting ready to ambush, and they look like they're ready to give you a ginormous hug. Their front 2 legs, of course, spiders have 8 on either side, so their front 4 legs, they position outwards, like they're ready to give you a big bear hug. But oh no, no bear hug is coming. They're waiting for any pollinating insect to come along, and they'll just ambush them by snapping shut those front 4 legs, inject the venom, and either paralyze or kill their prey, normally very slowly. That's how a flower spider works. I don't know, maybe this is a pea spider, I'm not sure. I need your help. #WildEarth. And normally the prey are completely unsuspecting. They have no idea that there's a big predator in wait, waiting to inject some venom into them and kill them. But normally the venom works instantly to paralyze the animal. So the animal will become paralyzed very, very quickly. But that doesn't mean they'll necessarily die very quickly, which is not pleasant to think about. Many of you are thinking it could be a crab spider. I hope so. That's what I was looking for. We jumped off the vehicle because normally the Vultheria indicas are great flowers to look for crab spiders in. You have to look very, very carefully, of course, because they are camouflage and they are so small. But the fact that they just wait. And if they're disturbed by humans or larger predators, mammal, they actually just curl up into a ball and drop to the ground. And they'll wait until the threat has passed before they'll climb up the plant again. I know it sounds rather bizarre, but they're really beautiful. I mean, the sort of spiders that you really have to worry about out here in South Africa, out here in the Lowveld, would be your black and brown button spider. They contain a neurotoxin that would be very damaging to humans. It would attack the central nervous system. The baboon spider also contains a neurotoxin, different types of toxins. Then the other 3 are cytotoxic. That means they go for muscle tissue and skin and flesh. And you can normally survive a cytotoxic sort of injection from a spider, but it would do a lot of damage. The wound can be quite severe. It can take a long time to heal, and that will be your violence, a violent spider, a sac spider, or the 6-eyed crab spider. Those are your cytotoxic ones. Thank you, James Richard. You're confirming that it is in fact a flower crab spider. Yes. That was a lucky spot.
Good job.
Thank you, Davy. You've just sometimes got to stop and just look around. And although there's not much ambient light today, there's always something happening. Dr. Rocky Balboa, you are asking, do they glow at night if you use a UV light? I have actually never shown a UV light on these spiders, but I don't believe so. Scorpions do. Of course, you can buy a really specialized light and scorpions will show up, but I don't believe these spiders do. I see why you ask that, though. It's got quite a neon-y green discotheque color, but I don't believe so. It would be interesting to do a bushwalk at night time with a UV torch and see what glows and what doesn't, but obviously that's not highly recommended. So fascinating. That moth will have had no idea. It's obviously a diurnal flyer, or it could have been captured last night. We don't know that. Came to the flower to get some nectar, indirectly pollinating, but not aware of that. And of course, game over. The crab spider was lying in wait, and the moth no more. Okay, I think I'm actually going to continue to search for the smaller things. And as I do that, we're going to send you back across to Phinda with their cheetah.
Amazing. Welcome back here. So these 3 cheetah haven't really moved too much. One of the little cubs got around and moved up, moved down again. But the cub on the left has been really quite beautiful. We've seen her move around. She keeps looking in our direction and giving us beautiful views of her eyes, like we were talking about earlier. Cheetah have got this beautiful kind of burnt amber, deep orange color to their eyes, and when the light catches it, you can really see the color, and it's absolutely spectacular. They are quite aware of what's going on around them. You'll see that all 3 heads at the moment are lifted up. They're all looking around. And with this little breeze that's blowing, it's quite hard for them to know exactly what cracks and crunches are being made by the wind and which ones are other animals moving around. You'll notice the direction all 3 heads are facing sort of towards us. And the wind is coming from behind their heads now currently. So with the wind coming that direction, any noises or smells that are happening behind them or upwind of them, they'll become aware of them a lot earlier than what's downwind of them. So they're using their eyes to scan downwind and make sure there's nothing approaching from the bottom, and their ears and noses to detect anything that's moving upwind. It's a really clever technique that they use. You'll see this mother's ears are almost, she's got them turned back, and they are moving around, but for the most part she's listening to what's coming from behind her. You often see cheetah doing this at Phinda. Little cubs rolling around a little bit now. Maybe a little bit of a stretch out. While we've seen them move as well, we really have been when they've been moving around, we've really been able to see how full their little bellies are. Nocturnal by nature, I couldn't say for sure. I suppose it differs individual to individual, much like a human child, depending a lot on the nutrients that they get. Are they getting all the nutrients that they need? Are they getting it on time every time they need it? Are they having to wait a couple extra days each time? Depending on the prey availability, abundance, how effective the mother is at hunting. So there are lots of different factors that'll influence that type of thing. As they get close to about, I'd say, between 1.5 years and 2 years, they normally start reaching a kind of fully developed stage of life. but I couldn't say their bone structure. I couldn't put a exact time frame on it. I think it depends on too many different variables. These ones are still very much underdeveloped. And you can see all that fluff on them still. They've still got tiny little heads. I often think the youngsters look quite grumpy. Those dark tear marks on their face. The one on the left's got a bit of a... They actually both do have quite... Because their mouths are black as well, their lips. It looks like at the base of each lip there's a little dark splash. That youngster on the right rolling around there, you can really see how full that belly is. So these guys have absolutely gorged themselves in the last day. Hopefully getting all the nutrients they need to have a fully complete bone structure ASAP. The quicker they grow, the more likely they are to survive as well. Big Bob, angry is hard to say. It's a kind of human emotion. So I'm not quite sure exactly which behavior one could attribute anger to when watching Cheetah. I suppose if you want to talk about, or if you want to group anger, a feeling of being unsettled, a feeling of fear and feeling threatened, then the behavior that one could associate with that is it'll look very uncomfortable, the animals. So Cheetah will get up, they'll maybe move away, sometimes hiss. You'd really have to annoy a cheetah to get it to charge you. So maybe if a mother had really small cubs in a den or a kill nearby and she really felt like she needed to defend it, she'd see her hissing at you. And those are all signs of those things. So mostly feeling threatened and vulnerable and like she can't get away. Then she'll hiss. I'm not sure if anyone's been charged by a cheetah on Phinda before. They tend to avoid conflict as much as possible. And for cheetah, humans are nothing other than a threat. So if they can get away, they'll disappear before they'll react and feel really angry, I suppose. We'll spend another 15 minutes or so with these cheetahs, seeing if anything happens here. But it does look like they are getting comfy for the day. They've got a nice little shady spot here, so I don't see them moving too soon. We are going to head across to Ngala again, back to the wild dogs. And hopefully they're a little bit more active than the cheetah here.
So, two impalas literally just walked right past these dogs, and for a brief moment it piqued the interest. Who, by the looks of it, when she moved around like that, looked like she actually did have something small to eat this morning. At least it looks like she had a bit of a bulging belly. Up and then looking a little bit more. Because it took them quite a while to notice those impalas actually, which is really funny because the rest of the packs just moved in under a shrub behind this animal, and from there their view wouldn't have been too great, and I'm not surprised that they didn't see the impala. But this one was just taking a nap right out in the open and the first one to spot. Maybe this is her way of making up for that. Distancing herself, have a good, clear lookout in the direction that animals are most likely to come from. Now, each time she gets up like that, each time we get animals up like that, you're not sure what exactly might happen. So, a Rocky Balboa, are wild dogs more powerful than dingoes? As far as I'm aware, they are larger than dingoes, and they have a stronger bite force. So I'd say yes, they are more powerful than dingoes. At least if they both do exist in the same ecosystem or in the same area, or if they ever had to encounter each other, I'm pretty sure the wild dog would be higher up the food chain. But then again, wouldn't know. In a natural environment like this, the two species have never really had to interact, so very, very difficult to say. I think one always needs to give any predator, especially predators in groups, no matter what their size, the benefit of the doubt. You can see that's one of the males. He's looking completely opposite direction. Just casting a quick glance over to the female, see what's happening outside, but I don't think it's going to be too much movement. I think it's just a little bit of a wake-up call that they got from those impalas. And the breeze have just started picking up, so that might also have given this urge to get up and move about a little bit. During the middle of the day when these animals do rest, and they do need a lot of rest, they exert massive amounts of energy when they hunt in the morning and the afternoon. And during the middle of the day, they need to rest to replenish that, digest if they have eaten something. And they've got an extremely quick metabolism. The meat that they ate in the morning will already be converted to the energy in the afternoon, ready for the next hunt.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
We have a raptor way off in the distance in the tree. I'm just trying to actually identify what we have. Is it a tawny? Or a Wahlberg's? It looks like it's got a sort of patchy coloration, which is normally quite common in tawnies when they're the dark morph. But looking at the feathers on the back of that head, I don't think it's just the wind. It looks more like a Wahlberg's. It was getting bombed by the drongos. And it's obviously perched itself on a branch here to avoid them. I can imagine if you're a raptor, it must be very irritating. Every time you want to take flight, the drongos are on you. I'm still not sure, everyone. Actually, it's very far away for us. But I think it possibly could be a Wahlberg's. The Tonys do come in different morphs. I think they have one of the largest variety of color morphs, if that makes sense. But they have a very smooth crown on their head. The feathers don't stick up like that as the Wahlberg's do. They also have different morphs. You get the pale form, the dark form, and everything in between. The Wahlbergs are substantially smaller than a tawny, though, believe it or not, so you can sometimes gauge by size. Neo, you're saying the eagle has landed. Yes, it has. The eagle has landed in a tree. We're just not entirely sure what eagle has landed. Do you think we'll get a view from going around? Davi thinks we might get a better view if we go a little bit closer. It's always risky, but let's try it. 1, we have our rain roof on. 2 is high up in the tree. And 3, it might fly away, but let's try it. Do you know what I can see? Blue sky. I think this day is going to clear up after all. Davi, I don't say this too often, but I think you might have been right. Oh, no, off we go. I definitely won't be able to tell you what it is in flight. You did well there. Good job, David Eastall. Good job.
Thanks.
That was very well done. We are very lucky with the raptor species we get out here. We see the common ones, of course, but we're very, very lucky. We see lots of different raptors all year round. Okay, I'm going to just cross back into the central of Djuma, see what we can find, but we're now going to send you back across to those cheetah.
Welcome back once again to warming up Phinda. It's very rapidly warming up, and I'm starting to think like these cheetah are using or kind of chose the spot to lie down this morning because it was going to be the best spot to spend the day. So they're underneath quite a thick tree here, and I can already start to see the shade that's being cast on the ground there. Oh, little cute little roll around. They haven't moved much at all. The one cub got up out of the sun and moved further under the bush into a slightly thicker shady area. The mother's still quite aware, of what's going on around her. Her head's still up. The cubs are doing their best to stay awake, but I think they're magisch vol oogies too. It's time to go to sleep. These cheetah really do have full bellies. You can see the bulge in the mother's stomach and then two little bulges behind where the cubs' full stomachs are. I was hoping that we would spend some more time here and they might get up and something or chasing something, but I don't think they are going to move. They definitely don't need to feed at the moment. You can see that little cub with the beautiful, beautiful eyes sitting up at the back now. But I have a feeling, a sneaky suspicion that these guys are going to spend the rest of the day here. So a couple of the signs that we look out for with cats that might give them away as getting ready to move is they'll often start yawning, so just oxygenating their body, getting lots of oxygen in the butt, start grooming, making sure all their fur is evened out, and lastly stretching just to make sure their muscles are all loose and they've got enough blood in each muscle. Kid one, the fluff on the youngsters is, I guess, a mane. It's not different from a lion. It's the same kind of fluffy neck hair. When they're even younger than this, it's even more pronounced and obvious, and that mane runs all the way down their backs. And then as they get to around 4, 5, 6 months, it starts fading slowly. It'll start fading on their back first and start evening out. And then the last little bit of fluff that'll disappear is around their heads and necks. So the back of their necks stay fluffy for a long time, probably to about a year and 2 months. And then they'll start looking like proper adult cheetah. But for now, and probably for the next 6 months or 7 months, they'll have a little bit of fluff. Once again, we are going to head back to Ngala and the wild dog that they've got there. We'll spend another couple minutes sitting around here seeing if anything changes, but I don't think anything's going to happen here. So we might start moving again.
And we were hoping that these wild dogs might get up soon as well, and there was a bit of movement. At least the head's up of this one, but you can see the ears are not fully erect. It's kind of dipping a little bit lower than usual, and it looks like the animal is slowly but surely also dipping her head a little bit. And there's still that determination to keep an eye out, almost as if she's been put on watch by the pack. And they do have a bit of division of roles within the pack. Each member knows its position quite well, its rank. But this female, if I had to guess, looking at her age, seeing or comparing her to the other two females, so I had a good look now. It looks like there's 3 females and 3 males here. The 3 males look older and they're much larger, and then out of the females there's 2 younger ones, and then this one which looks quite a bit older. So I'm assuming this one is the alpha female within this pack. And you can also see the way she's been treated. The other dogs show her the necessary respect. Well, Musi, how long will the wild dog pups stay with their mother for? Usually it's up until the end of the next year's pups or litter, and then the females will break off first. Males sometimes stay a little bit longer. When they stay, they add to the pack, they add hunting success of the pack. And they're also there to fill in if one of the older, more senior members suffer an incident or to continue with the rest of the pack. Then from the supply of younger males which comes each year with the new litters, they might fill in those gaps within the pack. But then you also do find, what I've seen is you have same-sex groups of all males splitting off after a year or two, maybe a year and a half, and they too go look for groups of females to try and form new packs. Often they find groups where there's both male and females, in which case the stronger dogs or the more dominant dogs will take the lead within the newly formed pack if they do, and maybe even males within another group if they have to. Yeah, complicated. I've seen it vary from a few different packs in this particular area. You can see every now and again, every little noise makes a pick up ahead. Crunchy Coach, if the dogs are unable to hunt, yes, indeed, they will get fed by some of the other dogs. The willingness to feed that animal does depend a little bit on the animal's rank, but they do get fed. They do take care of the others. I have seen before where a pack has an injured animal, and if that animal's not able to join the hunt, some of the others, after they've hunted, will come back and regurgitate food to it. Same with the pups. Once the pups are very, very small, or when they're very small, they don't have the means or the skill to hunt with the pack yet. And in that case, the pack usually goes hunt, makes their way straight back towards the den site, and then regurgitates food. And after they've left the den, they do the same. They'll leave one or two dogs to look after the younger ones. They run off. The rest go hunt. And once they're done, they make their way straight back to the youngsters. Either to go fetch them, if the hunt took place nearby, or to regurgitate them some food if it happened to become a situation where they've distanced out of the area where they initially started. Even though this up and down of the head by this female might be the proceedings of the rest of the day, I don't think at this stage that they'll actively go look for food. You can see, there we go, a little bit more of a relaxed position. Even though it's still overcast, it has definitely started to warm up at this point, and I think from here, if we don't get more rain today, at least not during the middle of the day, conditions this afternoon will be very favorable for animals to go and hunt. They don't even have to go for food. It's amazing though, the dedication within this animal every little sound. Is it likely that she will have pups this year? So come the end of February, more or less, this animal, the male and female, will probably break off from the rest of the pack, go mate. And then come around May, a little bit later on, they'll have their den season for sure. I see by the looks of it, it looks like this female already had youngsters once before. What happened to the youngsters this year, maybe they didn't survive, but I'm sure she'll at least have pups this year. Whether they're going to make it through the next year or whether they're going to grow to adulthood, that's a completely different question altogether. The mortality rate for these animals are quite high, especially when they're young and when they are vulnerable and during their den season. It would be good to see her have pups this year, though. And I hope she has a lot. Something to add to the numbers of this pack, thereby their success rate. She's a very important member to this pack, probably the most important member. Ooh, something's just drawn her attention. It's amazing how it goes. Look how straight and that tail looks at this point. It might be something moving down in the riverbed. I saw one dog move over that side earlier, and it might be that that's what's drawing her attention, or maybe it's something small moving. Getting up like that, ready for anything or anything that might cause it to react. She assessed it. Didn't seem like it needed more effort. And now she's laying back down. The direction that she's, that's where I last saw one of the males move into. And they're constantly aware of where each other move. The other male, what I thought might have been the old male, is also been spending some time with her. Every now and again you'll notice that the two of them will move away from the pack, like even if it's only a few meters, and they'll lay down at a distance where the male will be very much in tune with the female's movements. Whenever she picks up her head, he would as well. It would be interesting to know how much these animals actually sleep in the day, because it seems like they're always alert. And yes, I've seen every now and again where they do get the chance to sleep and not be too bothered when the adults are around. But it seems like they are constantly lifting their heads up, putting them back down. But I think we might leave these dogs here for the day, and then this afternoon we might look for them again to see if they will try and go hunt.
Thank you very much, Yapi. Hopefully they'll stay for a day, these dogs. And now what you see here on the ground, this is all pellets, which is defecation from impala, a male impala physically, who he would get around here. Females, he's got to be a dominant in the harem of the females, so he always makes sure he has a maiden. But not only himself, other males at the roundup can use this, but specifically for him. Now it's moisture, wet, pretty much happened last night. Most of the defecation, dung beetles, since this opening, pretty much a bit, it's going to be warm. These dung beetles will spend time coming into this area, roll their little balls in them. And they're probably just gonna roll their balls into hiding area where they will dig themselves underneath of the ground.
We're back to where we started. Exact same location and exact same impala herd. We really did scratch around for Miss Kalamba, but no signs. The ground's really impossible to see tracks of the cats, at least. And of course, the scrub hare last night was probably long gone. I think she will have definitely moved on to something else since then. But the hyenas and the flower crab spider, that's a winner for me. I've been after a flower crab spider for quite some time, and because we don't do bushwalk anymore, it's a little bit tricky to get down on the ground and find these things. But sometimes you just need to hop off the vehicle, take a closer look, and this entire area is teeming with life. Insect life is everywhere. Oh, what a pretty little boy. Look at his horns. This is a very young boy. Impala horns take different shapes as they get older in the males. You can roughly gauge the age by the shape of the horns, and that's a really young boy right there. Oh, I think actually this is the same herd that Kalamba had our eyes on last night. They don't move far. They're not territorial impalas, but they have quite small home regions. They really don't move. They like their unit. They like their area. They know where is safe and where is not. They know what their threats are. So I think it's time for us to go and get some breakfast. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I think it's been quite a diverse and wonderful range. And I believe the sun is going to pop out this afternoon. So please do jump on board with us then. Have a great day.